Members, so we'll make a start. Good afternoon and welcome to this multi-location meeting of the Democratic Services Committee on Tuesday, the 29th of November. I'm Councillor Saifur Rahman. I am chair of this committee. Please ensure that your phone are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. In addition, when asked to raise your hand, if members who are virtually viewing this meeting could raise your electronic hand, and for members in the committee room, just raise your hand. Just to make you all aware, today's meeting will be recorded. So I'm now moving on to the agenda. The first item on the agenda for today's meeting is agenda number 1, declaration of interest. Can I ask members, do you have any interest to declare at today's meeting? Please, can you indicate? No, I don't see any. Okay, moving on to item number 2, minutes of previous meeting. These are on page 3 to page 4. The minutes are for noting purposes. Okay, can I ask someone to approve the minutes, please? Yes, you can. Okay. You propose, okay. Yes, I can see Peter Rees. Peter, you raise your hand.
Can I ask a question on the minutes, Chair?
Yes, Peter.
I know they've been proposed. It's item 5, the Councillor Safety and Wellbeing report that we had, and it says that members will be kept up to date with any further information. What progress has been made on that report, Chair?
Okay, thank you, Peter. I'll ask Craig to come in on this.
Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Rees. You'll see that one of the items we're going to be talking about in item 4 of the papers today is on handling harassment, abuse and intimidation. And so we can give you an update about some of the work programme that we're looking to develop on that and some of the recent guidance ultimately that's come out of the Local Government Association as well. And hopefully we can sort of have a general discussion around those items about some next steps for this committee on that particular agenda item, when we get round to it, if that would be okay.
That's
Thank
okay,
you.
Peter?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, no problem. So am I okay to say the minutes are approved?
Yeah, I'm happy to second, Chair.
Second, yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item then, which is the item number 3. It's the draft annual report of the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales. I'm going to ask, is it Craig, or Stacey? Sorry, over to Stacey.
Thank you, Chair. So the report today is to advise members of the proposals set out in the IRPW draft report for 2023-24, which, if implemented, would impact on members' remuneration for that year. These are the draft proposals, and the IRPW are looking for a response to the consultation before the official report is brought back to members next February-March time. The proposed changes are set out on page 6, where members can see the proposed uplift in member salaries in the table set out. Members should note there are no further changes proposed to payments and benefits in any other area, for example, travel, care, sickness, etc. Members should also note that all members of council have been sent a copy of this draft report and are able to submit a response in their own right should they so wish. A draft response to the set questions has been prepared on page 7 for submission to the IRPW from the committee today, and we are looking for comments and any other inclusion in that questions from the committee this afternoon. Members are also invited to consider their proposals and determine if they wish to submit any other formal consultation response on behalf of the committee, as per the recommendations on page 10. So happy to open up to questions and discussion, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Stacey. So as chair, then I'll open the floor for question on this particular report. So members, can you please indicate whether you wish to comment on this item? Okay, I don't.
Sorry, Chair. Oh, I should have put my hand up. Sorry, Chair. As Councillor Rees, it's almost like asking turkeys to vote for Christmas, isn't it? You know, it's I mean, what are we going to say? Are we going to turn down the proposals? I don't think that's going to happen, Chair. So, you know, I just wonder why don't we just accept the proposals?
It's a draft proposal at the moment, Peter, and I believe sometime in February, March. Yeah, Stacey, please.
Thank you, Councillor Rees. Good point. Very well made. And what normally happens when this report comes, we submit an officer response because we totally appreciate the position this puts members in. So what we would propose to do is submit the consultation response as detailed in the report, and I will, as Head of Democratic Services, submit an officer response saying that it is difficult for members to vote one way or another, and we are in support of the slight uplift to salaries in line with, you know, the slight uplift that this represents. So if members are minded to approve that, we will submit a officer response in consultation with the chair, and that will go as the Democratic Services consultation response to this item. I don't know if any members have any opposing views to that, Chair, but that would be my recommendation going forward, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Stacey. Okay, members, I don't see any indication. So Stacey just explained what's going to happen now. So are you happy with the recommendations presented to us today? Yes? Can I get a proposer and a seconder, please, on this?
I propose it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you,
Happy
Phil.
to second, Chair.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So that's that item then. The next item on the agenda is item number 4, handling harassment, abuse and intimidation. Craig, over to you.
Thank you very much then, Chair. So members will recall, obviously, at the last meeting, we had a discussion on the work programme that the Welsh Local Government Association were looking at in dealing with the issues of council safety and well-being. So we're still awaiting contact from the WLGA with regards to the setup of this group and obviously the focus of what they're going to be looking at over the course of the next year or so. But in the interim, there's been a very useful guide published by the Local Government Association entitled Councillors' Handling of Harassment, Abuse and Intimidation, and we've included a link to that within your papers. It's a very good document which aims to give some practical assistance ultimately to members on having to deal with these unfortunate times, obviously, if they are a victim of any harassment, or abuse or intimidation, whether through working with constituents on social media or some general other factors, obviously, that it would be worthwhile for them ultimately considering. So with the proposal of the committee, in that sense, we're going to send that on to all members ultimately, so they'll be aware of it, and it contains some of those practical guidance points that we would like our members ultimately to be aware of. But it's interesting that what this document also suggests are some processes and policies for councils ultimately to start considering, and they include a number of recommendations over different elements. So, for example, having officers that members can go to if they are a victim of these aspects. Myself and Stacey, of course, as your Head of Democratic Services, will be the people here. Having a code of conduct ultimately in place, having local resolution processes in place. Again, all things that we have here ultimately in Neath, Talbot. What they've also recommended is a council policy setting out procedures and protocols on what to do, obviously, if you're feeling harassed, intimidated or abused in any way. So the proposal will be that Democratic Services colleagues and I will go away now and write a policy which we will bring back to Democratic Services Committee for you to consider and then endorse, hopefully, for onward distribution. What we're also going to look at is trying to identify some named individuals within our stakeholders, such as South Wales Police, that so if any members need to make contact with a police officer to discuss any concerns, there'll always be a dedicated person ultimately you can go to, and you know who those contact details will be. I think what's very interesting, though, at this stage is that we are still very much bound by the confines of law in what we can do ultimately to support members. So as I've mentioned in the report itself, as a local authority, we cannot bring any action to or financially compensate you in respect of any claims for defamation, libel or harassment ultimately that you receive. So the law, for example, then hasn't actually caught up with where we are with current forms of social media and some of those other issues associated with that. So what we'd also like to propose is a letter sent from the chair of the Democratic Services Committee on your behalf to stakeholders like Welsh Government, Welsh Local Government Association, asking them to do more ultimately to potentially support local members who are standing for county borough councils and community councils as well, whether there will be avenues that they can put increased support or increased guidance ultimately in place. So there would be avenues for ultimately members to then consider. I think what we are concerned about from an officer perspective, obviously, where these issues ultimately arise in the community, then it could put people off ultimately wanting to stand from council due to the risks of potential harassment that they or abuse that they may receive. So we want to see what more can ultimately be done on a national level as well to try to support individuals in this regard. So the report is before members today just to give you an update, and you can see the guidance that we'll be issuing out to all members. We'll be bringing back a policy ultimately which we can look at as an NPT level of support to try and pull all that information together into one forum for members to consider. But at the same time now we want to write to national organisations to say what more can you be doing to help trying to support individuals who find themselves in these circumstances. Happy to take any questions on that, Chair. I'll open to any suggestions that members may have.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Peter, please first.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, really. In recent times, we've seen MPs at their own surgeries being murdered. I just wonder that those councillors, I'm one of them, who hold surgeries, is there any protection, or what is the legal part about protection of councillors holding surgeries and the public coming in a similar way to the MPs that we've seen with the MP Cox and the other MP, I can't remember his name now, but who was murdered. I just wondered, is there any protection for members who hold surgeries open to the public? You know, what's the position there?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Rees. The guidance, obviously, which the LGA have promoted, there are some sections in there about holding surgeries where they recommend, obviously, in public places, notifying individuals where you are going to be at that meeting so people know where they can find you family-wise in case there's any sort of emergency issues there. If you have concerns, obviously, with respect to any safety, they recommend, obviously, notifications to your PCSOs and other individuals in that regard. They've recommended, obviously, taking advice from health and safety colleagues. And we know as part of your induction programme, there was the health and safety section where we brought in our health and safety officers to advise you on some risk assessments and the various different processes that you can consider in that regard. So it's all very much guidance on the types of issues ultimately that need to be considered. Actually, quantifiable measures ultimately to try and improve safety are probably a little bit more limited in that regard, but it's about putting processes in place to give you an awareness of the types of issues that you need to consider, the types of processes. But the best thing ultimately they're suggesting is linkages in with organisations like your PCSOs, making them aware if you are holding surgeries on a particular day, if they're dropping in, or various different elements to try and make sure there's visibility to people like the South Wales Police that these matters are going on within the community as well.
Okay, Peter, any follow-up question to that?
No, so, I mean, basically, if you're holding a surgery, it's up to you to make arrangements for your own safety. Is that what you're saying, Craig?
Unfortunately, yes. I think that's what it comes down to. We can give guidance and type of support on obviously all the issues ultimately that need to be considered, linking in with organisations like South Wales Police, but the onus is on the member to make sure obviously that there is they are feeling comfortable in that arrangement and they are not feeling that they are unnecessarily exposing themselves in any way to any potential risk. But I think the linkages in with PCSOs is probably one of the best elements for consideration to make sure that if you are having surgeries, they are aware it is going on at that particular time, and hopefully they could drop in, or any other aspects maybe that could be considered. It's things like that ultimately we want to try and cover off in the policy. So when we are writing ultimately to South Wales Police and say that, you know, what support can you provide, who do we contact, we can try and highlight some of these issues to them so they can start thinking if there's a way that they could assist in some way as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter and Craig. Next, can I ask Councillor Joe Hale, please?
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree with Peter there about surgeries, and I think it is a really good idea to contact. I know we have great support from our local police officer, and he's always quite welcome to come. And because I think, you know, sometimes if you're in a community centre, you can be there on your own with just one person. And sometimes, you know, especially being a woman, it can be a little bit intimidating if it's a person who's got particular issues, and you know, I don't believe it is safe. So I think it is a good idea to maybe ask our either PCSOs or, you know, our police officer if they'll come along and support us on that. I don't hold surgeries anymore because nobody turned up anyway, but you know, if I did, I think I would go down that road, and I think that is the best avenue to take. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Are there anybody else wish to make a comment or ask a question on this item? No? Okay, can I just bring up one thing? When I first joined local government back in 2012, I remember a year later, I've had, well, every single member had a email sent to them which were libel and slander against myself. And I remember at the time I was seeking some advice and help. You know, I've had very little help then, to be honest. But I suppose there are a lot of people who hide behind social media profile as well as email account these days. And I think it's quite difficult. But we all can't be victim. And I think I welcome the bit, Craig, where you mentioned about writing a letter on behalf of the committee. So I look forward to that. Before I close this item, then, is there anybody else wish to come in? No? Okay, thank you then. That item is for noting. The next item then, item number 4, a forward work program. Stacey, would you like to come in on this one? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So members can see the forward work programme of the committee on page 41. Members will note an additional meeting has gone in for February because we do have statutory things we need to consider as a committee. So that extra meeting has gone in to allow us to deal with the things that we are obligated to do so. The forward work programme is not set in stone, as you know, so we can add items as a committee if we feel we need to. And it's there for information today, Chair, with the note of that additional meeting in February. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stacey. Members, any question on the forward work programme? Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any further item then. So unless you have anything to bring up, I'm happy to close the meeting. No? Okay, well, thank you all for attending. It's been another short meeting.
Thank you.
And have a lovely afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Do you want to stay online, Nathan?
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Nathan, Thank do you want you, to stay Chair. online?
Councillor Harvey, this is the official recording of the meeting, so can I suggest you have a separate call if you want
Okay,
to speak? Is that okay?
I wasn't aware it's been recorded. I apologise.
Oh, no worries.
Thank
Bye.
you.